WNST once said, and this guy knows a little something about Earl Weaver as well as Tony Conigliaro. He is a longtime Red Sox fan. I would used to say sufferer. I mean, everybody who's a Red Sox was a sufferer for a long time. Now they mainly gloat for the most part, but they have had some bad years. But he's in Cincinnati. He covers the Bengals, but he loves the Red Sox. I'm going to let him talk about the Red Sox a little bit, then we'll get down and dirty on this Bengals game. Geoff Hobson back with us from Bengals.com. Long time. How many years you been covering the Bengals? 25, maybe? More than that?
Off and on for 30 years, and with the club for the last, 28. Off and on for 28, and for the last 19 seasons with the club.
19? You were the first ever, to go from the newspaper side to a team website before teams had websites, right?
Yeah, that's what they say. I think a couple months after I got the job, I know Mike Eisen was thinking about maybe seeing if he'd be interested in covering the Bengals. He was covering the Giants down in Jersey, and he was wondering what was going on at the Inquirer and what was happening. And I explained to him what I was doing. He called John Mara after he talked to me, and he went over to the Giants. So it's. I guess it was that 2000 season while Marvin was building a little bit of history there. The website thing got going too.
Well, for you on the baseball side, let's just start with that, and then we'll get to the game because I want to get to the good stuff for you. From an Oriole Red Sox perspective, dude, I thought it was impossible to be 60 games under 500. I mean, we're seeing sort of a legendary thing happen between our two respective clubs here this year, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a shame. You're talking about Earl, the Earl of Baltimore. He's the guy, to me, he was doing all this numbers match up and sabermetrics long before everybody was putting it in notebooks. I think the Earl had it in he had it in the back of his pocket. But yeah, it's a shame. The Red Sox Orioles, I spent the first, 7-8 years following baseball by always asking, what did Baltimore do? Because they were always in first and we were always chasing them.
It is funny. I mean, all old guys like us, we cut our teeth on baseball. You spent a life in football. People think of me as a football guy, even though my last name's Aparicio. You're no relation to Butch Hobson, but everybody calls you Butch. I mean, you got a baseball nickname for crying out loud. And, you had all these years into football. And I think there's coming this separation for me. I turn 50 next month about, how much time baseball is going to occupy over the next 20 or 30 years of my life versus where we are with football or soccer, basketball, hockey. Whatever floats your boat, rock and roll, whatever you spend your time doing. But baseball has really sort of escaped Baltimore to some degree. And these next couple of years and trying to build something back. And look, you've been in Cincinnati all these years. They're always trying to fill the seats there, right? They're always trying to build the brand, build the brand, build the brand. With the Orioles, it was built and it's been sort of shot. You know how hard it is for a sports franchise. You've worked for the Bengals for 2 decades,
It's a baseball town. When Paul Brown came in, he was, when Paul Brown and Mike Brown came in '65, because really it was Mike Brown is the reason they're in Cincinnati, because he advised his father to stay in Ohio and to begin his comeback. Remember, he was exiled by Art Modell, and, Mike told him the best way for you, talk about brand, they were branded in the mid-'60s. Paul Brown was a legend in Ohio. Mike had done the numbers on Cincinnati. It was a growing town, and it worked out tremendous because I know Paul was thinking about, going with the Seattle franchise. But Mike was exactly right. His brand was in Ohio, and it worked perfectly. And Nestor, I think it's, we're looking at a generational thing, too. Think about when we were growing up, and it was, you've got 10 years on me, but it's pretty much the same era. Baseball was king, and now the NFL is king, and soccer is coming fast. So I remember growing up, soccer was the sport of the '60s. It was supposed to be the sport of the '70s, and then it was supposed to be the sport of the '80s. Well, now it's here, man. It's the sport. It's the sport of the mid 21st century. So,
well, I'm in a lacrosse place here too, so like we have a whole different thing here. Probably like in Charlotte, where there's NASCAR or whatever. Or even like I was out west a couple of weeks ago. I mean, the rodeo's big in big parts of the country, and skateboarding and X Games and beach volleyball. And there's all these sort of niche things going on, but baseball is shrinking faster than maybe I saw it begin to shrink, and it has definitely shrunk, and it needs, even in your marketplace, right? I mean, the Reds have not been as relevant as they'd like to be, which opens the door for the Bengals. And look at what the Ravens have done to the Orioles in Baltimore. It's just in our eyes over the last 20 years, how much bigger a brand the Ravens are here.
Well, I mean, look what Marvin's done in Cincinnati. He's been here 16 years, and 7 times they've gone to the playoffs. Before he came, they've been to the playoffs 7 times in, the 25 years or so before he got here. So, Marvin's put, he's got the Bengals on another level than when he got here, but it's still a climb because it's still a baseball town, even when the Reds are struggling. It's to me, baseball's deal is they got to get some kind of a salary cap deal. They should be modeling whatever the NFL did financially, because I think that really works. But there's no question that what the Ravens have done, and I think you put Ozzie Newsome at the top of the list. Here's a guy. How many guys can go into the Hall of Fame as a player and as an exec? I mean, they should have another induction for him as an executive, because he's been the driving force behind that franchise, getting all that talent. They've always had the right coach at the right time. I mean, they're. I was telling Harbaugh like not too long after the game last year. His teams, he builds them the right way. And I really admire how John approaches it and coaches it, because he's always, even if the talent level's not always the same, he seems to get. He's always got his team in a hunt.
You know what's interesting about this? By the way, Geoff Hobson joining us here from Bengals.com. You can follow Geoff out there, and also he has a wonderful picture of the Tony Conigliaro Shiner as his Twitter avatar. You can follow him at Geoff Hobson. That's Geoff with the Geoff Hobson, CIN, and that is the Hobson, like Butch Hobson. It's funny. All the website people, and I talked to all of them, and you've been at it so long, and I can kind of even almost be flipping with you and asking you a question and saying, why does Marvin still have this job? And I know you're going to give me like an honest answer on this, where I don't always get those kinds of things from website guys, but you've been at this so long, and there's a comfort level, I think, for Marvin there and Paul Brown, and look, Mike Brown, excuse me, and I've heard Marvin tell me, but I want to hear how you couch it, because I think people always come up to me and say, hey, how has Marvin kept that job that long? And I go into this long dissertation about his relationship, but I want to hear you tell that story.
Well, Nestor, they talk every morning, whether Marvin's in town or not, whether it's the off season or not, they talk every morning. They talk they talk about the club, and they may disagree on things, but it's not as, I don't think it's as much as you would think. At heart, they're both old school guys, and Mike Brown is very comfortable with stability. I think. When all the stuff came out at the end of last year, and Marvin he was gone. These were going to be the last 2 games he was coaching. When he went to, how fitting that the last game he was going to coach for the Bengals was going to be in Baltimore and all that.
Yeah, we figured out a bottle of red wine and some pizza over that, and I thought it was the end. I mean, I can't say that he didn't think it was. I mean, you came in, we were all talking about it being the end of this era, right?
Man, I think, Mike looked at it. They won the last 2 games that the other team had to win badly. They had to win to make the playoffs. They beat them both. They looked good doing it with a banged up roster, no Eifert. And I think he looked and he said, what better of what guy was he going to get that was going to give him more than Marvin was? Marvin had the structure in place. Marvin knew the personnel. Mike does not want. Mike's 83 years old. He's not into rebuilding. He He doesn't want to rip it up. He's never been into rebuilding.
Well, the other thing is he hasn't won either, right? I mean, there's a real, serious, personal thirst and hunger, and it's not about Mike Brown getting a yacht or having a bigger house or having a bigger pool or sailing down the Danube. He's done all of that, right? I mean, this is the last thing left for him to do, and I think he feels like Marvin gives him the best shot to do it right away, right? And there's so much relationship there that's so sort of weird and old school, you know?
I mean, I think that appeals to Marvin. If Mike isn't one of the old Mike. That appeals to Marvin. Marvin's an old school guy. Marvin loves working for a guy. Football's his life. He's in the office every day. He goes to every practice. He lives it. He breathes it. Just like guys did in the old days. When now it's for most of these guys, it's a satellite deal. It's part of a bigger company. For Mike, it's his whole life, and I think that kind of thing appeals to Marvin too. It's Marvin's life.
Geoff Hobson joining us here. We'll be in Cincinnati on Thursday night. All of our WNST programming brought to you by Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy. Of course, Billy Cole will be here talking some football with us before the week is over as well. Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. I got coffee in one cup. I got my H2O in the other cup to keep the pipes where they need to be. Hey, I tell you what, get the Rofo Rewards card and or download it to your app. Make sure you're using that when you're pumping your gas. You'll get your chicken. You'll get your Western fries, which I always enjoy me some Western fries. You get those free of charge. Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. Even though Chicken Palooza is over, I still will indulge and wear the shirt from time to time. Also brought to you by Sporticulture. I got beautiful Ravens flowers in the studio. You can get them, order them, send them anywhere at Sporticulture. That's Sporticulture. My man Court is growing these right out on the west side of town. He's got this beautiful, beautiful, gigantic nursery with beautiful flowers, and they ship these anywhere. He's NFL licensed. It's Sporticulture.com. Go check that out. Geoff Hobson can be checked out on Twitter as well as at Bengals.com. We always like to talk a little Red Sox, a little Orioles, certainly a little Marvin and a little Bengals. But hey, man, we got a really good game here, and I think we have a really interesting season, right? Like, as long as I've known you and Marvin's been there, and we never talk about Harbaugh versus Marvin Lewis and Mike Tomlin and these coaches that have been together all this time, and it's always been that ladder of 8, 10, 12 wins. Everybody's gotten like the little bit of the best of everybody. You guys haven't won a ring. Pittsburgh and Baltimore got one, but in the modern era I'm talking about. But the Browns have always lagged behind. We've sort of lagged behind the Steelers, both of these franchises, the last couple of years. But, boy, the Steelers feel like they've come back. The Browns feel like they're coming on. And I like the way the Bengals and the Ravens looked on Sunday. I watched a lot of your game because ours was such a blowout. I went to the back wall to watch Cincinnati and Indy and watch Cleveland and Pittsburgh to get a look at it. Boy, it feels like all these teams might be capable of 8, 9, 10, 11 wins if things break the right way and quarterbacks play well and they stay healthy.
I'm telling you what, if Flacco, if Joe plays like he did, Baltimore, in my opinion, Baltimore's the team to beat because they got a terrific defense. Jeez, they're just, that front seven's great. And, Joe gets hot like he did in 12, I think it's theirs to win. I think Cincinnati. I think their defense. They kind of get an emerging defense. I think their front seven. I think is once you get Burfict back in there, they're a formidable defense. And to me, this thing it always goes through Pittsburgh. But Cleveland's going to win. Cleveland's going to win 5 or 6 games. You just got to hope that people in the 3 other teams are hoping not one of them is against them, because they are going to. I think they'll win. I think they will win 5 or 6 just because of a lot of averages. But it's the reason the North is so intriguing to me always is Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are so stable. Exactly the names change on the field, but the organizations, the coaches, the style. You know exactly what you're going to get. nasty. What I mean, we know it's going to be 23-20, right? Thursday night. We just don't know who's going to have 23 and who's going to have 20.
Well, there's going to be 2 minutes and 17 seconds left, and they're going to be cranking up the jungle, and somebody's going to have to kick a field goal or make a third down stop or make a play, and that's what all of these games are always about. They're always about a play or two, and they're really about players and matchups, Hobby. I mean, for me, no Jimmy Smith against A.J. Green and against Antonio Brown 2 weeks from now. You guys have no perfect at this point. I saw you guys play, and it looks to me offensively that this is the healthiest you could hope to be at this point, and certainly on the offensive line for all the problems last year and the leakiness of it, some of that has been shored up. Now, I thought it was a relatively sloppy effort and a choppy effort against the Colts, and some things broke the right way, but certainly they made big plays when they needed to in that game. It felt to me like Luck was going to come down there and slit your throat at the end, because he's done that.
Yeah, that offense, the Bengals offense can't play. I mean, if the Bengals offense plays like that Thursday night, they might get a field goal. Or the same thing is going to happen what happened during last year's opener. They're not going to score. Baltimore is terrific defensively. You talk about matchups, you're exactly right. I mean, Bobby Hart, their right tackle, just struggled all day long. And, Suggs and Juden, they're going to be, they're looking at that. Rookie Billy Price, the center, got a great matchup right away with Williams, the great Pro Bowl nose tackle. I mean, to me, that's where this game, the Bengals rebuilt offensive line versus that front seven. I mean, it's a matchup thing. If Andy doesn't get the time, AJ's not going to have. AJ's one of the great Harbaugh quotes of all time is after one of those games is maybe once we can cover AJ Green. Maybe we can cover him once before he retires. But if Andy doesn't have time back there, it doesn't matter what AJ's doing. So, to me, that's just the Bengals rebuilt offensive line versus that terrific front seven led by 57.
Well, with Mixon into the mix here and Eifert healthy, there are more weapons there for Dalton, but tell me about the offensive line and how it was to be rebuilt, because, the Ravens have done the same thing. I watched Kelechi Osemele running around with the Raiders the other night. I'm watching the Jaguars with the Buccaneers with our center at this point. Our right tackle was playing for the Lions the other night. So, we've lost offensive linemen because we didn't want to pay them. The Bengals were kind of the opposite. I mean, kind of had the Whitworth and some guys hanging around for a period of time. But when they all leave at once and you draft, and the Obwege, I don't know how to pronounce it. Pronounce his name. The backup. Obwege. I'll make sure I get it right. But when those guys don't pan out, then you find yourself, much like the Ravens when they've messed up with wide receivers in drafts or safeties, then you have to go out into the market and buy them and figure it all out. But when your O-line's leak, you're not going very far. We've had that issue around here lately.
Hey, that's the thing about why that. But, when Marvin took this job in 2003, people were saying, oh, why would you go there? The thing about that, in 2003, the Bengals had two good tackles, Willie Anderson and Levi Jones. Levi should have probably gone to a Pro Bowl. Willie, in my opinion, is a Hall of Famer. The Bengals have always had tackles, and that's the only way you can beat Baltimore. You have got to protect it. You got to protect against Baltimore. The Bengals could protect against Baltimore. I remember Rex Ryan was always talking about the guy that drove him crazy was Reggie Kelly, the tight end, because he played tight end like he was a tackle, and that's why I think the Bengals always had, maybe they've been about, since Marvin got here, about 500 against Baltimore maybe, which is probably the best you can do against a team that good in the division. I think that's pretty solid against a team like that, and that's because they could protect if they had those tackles. When you don't, when all of a sudden, and now are like the rest of the league now. I mean, not a lot of clubs have right tackles. They make sure to get the left tackle, and the Bengals did. The thing on Sunday was, their first rounder from 15, he was inactive. So. And they traded for Cordy Glenn, the left tackle from the Bills, which was a terrific pickup.
Yeah, our wide receiver, Brashad Perryman, he's inactive too a lot. He's not on the team anymore, So when you miss on draft picks, and I think the Bengals, and one of the reasons Marvin went back is they felt really good about this, the last couple of years of draft classes. It feels like they're drafting better, right?
Oh, yeah, there's no question. I mean, They had a great run drafting in 11 and 12 and 13. They picked up some players that were the core of those clubs that went to the playoffs 5 straight years. And in 16 and 17, and now with 18, Mixon and John Ross and William Jackson and Tyler Boyd, Nick Vigil, Carl Lawson. These guys are really very good players. So, and I think that's another. And I think Marvin did exactly what he had to do. He ripped up the line, not only personnel-wise but culture-wise. He made a huge change with the offensive line coach. Paul Alexander had been his line coach for 15 years. Marvin blew that up. He brought in a different guy with a different style to come in, Frank Pollock, who had been in Dallas. And he's got a new playbook. They've gone from the Jay Gruden, Hugh Jackson playbook that was installed in 2011, and now they've got Bill Lazor, kind of has a combination of a little bit of everything where he's been. I like to say it's Don Coryell meets Chip Kelly a little bit. And that's exactly what that offense gets stale. The line gets stale, scheme-wise. Marvin did exactly what he had to do. He blew it up. Now, how long? My question is how long. I think that's going to work, but the question is always, when are they going to get their footing? Is it going to be 2 games? Is it going to be 5 games? Is it going to be week 12? They certainly didn't really have it against Indy. And, my God, with, Suggs and Williams, they'll have to grow up quick.
Hobby, I'm going to admit a story here that I don't think I've ever told on Baltimore radio before, but a couple years ago when you guys were in the playoffs and we weren't, and maybe it was like a Patriot game. I don't know what it was. I mean, you guys have lost a couple of playoff games. It was recently, last 3-4 years. We weren't in. And I told Marvin I wanted to support the Bengals. So he sent me a Bengals, because he knows I'm always cold in the winter. He sent me this really, really thick turtleneck, and it's got the B on it that's orange. It almost looks like a Baltimore Oriole B, but it's on the neck. So I have one piece of Bengals swag in my closet, and I've always felt like good that if the Bengals were to ever win, Marvin would win. But it didn't even occur to me that, like, you would get a Super Bowl ring, too. And, like, Jamie and a bunch of other people I know. So make a case for me as a Bengals employee and a Bengals.com guy that could get a ring that Andy Dalton's going to be the guy that gets you that ring. Like, tell me how that happens for you.
Well, I think they surround him with people. Like they did in 15. Probably about the time you got that turtleneck. Right about the time you got that turtleneck, Dalton was an MVP candidate, Nestor. Having a hell of a year with Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson made sure he could see the field. Hugh Jackson had a pocket for him. That's what Bill Lazor and Frank Pollock are doing now. Remember, Andy had him 10-2 and rolling, broke his thumb. I like Dalton. The guy wins games. He's won 59% of his games. I know that's the big question. Can he get you there? That was a big question about Joe, too, I think if you protect Dalton, he makes play. He'll find AJ. He'll find John Ross if you give him time. I think something. I think if you run the ball, if you seriously commit to running the ball, I think he's a good play action quarterback. I mean, Nestor, he's beaten you guys enough times in the late minutes. Can't you see him doing that on the stage? I've seen him go down the field late at M&T.
Well, we always say AJ Green beats us, right? But somebody has to throw him the ball.
Oh yeah, I mean somebody threw the ball to Tyler Boyd.
Correct. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Listen. Okay, I'm a house man. They pay me, right? I'm a Dalton guy. But is that too far? I mean, is that too? I don't know. Look at his numbers. The guy's got he's the 17th best passer of all time. He's got the guy's the winningest quarterback in this club's history. I mean, the guy wins. The guy has one game. He averages 9.5 wins a year. I mean, geez, I know. Okay, he plays shitty. He plays badly in prime time. The reason the rest of the country doesn't think he can play is because they only see him play at night. All I know, Nestor, is we've got 14 1 p.m. games, so watch out.
Hey, by the way, Geoff Hobson joining us here at Bengals.com. You can find him out on Twitter at Geoff Hobson, CIN. All of our WNST programming brought to you by the Lee Tessier team, Baltimore's premier realty team, and the people I trust with my real estate transactions. You can find them at LeeTessier.com. Also, the Maryland Jockey Club and Laurel, they've moved to the Francis Dash to next weekend. The Maryland Million coming up next month on October 20th. Also, on the front of WNST WNST.net. Appreciate Laurel Park's support. And Hobby, it's interesting you'd say that. You're a company guy. They pay you to believe in Dalton. I don't get paid to believe in Flacco, but I do. And I am the Flacco apologist around here while I wear my Roberto Clemente shirt today. So I wanted to point that out to you because it's Clemente's birthday. So I'm wearing Pittsburgh gear, talking to a Cincinnati guy and making all nice. But, there's a case to be made that Dalton is more likely to win a Super Bowl than Flacco, even though Flacco's won. People have been writing Flacco off for 2 or 3 years. Nationally, Lamar Jackson was going to have this job by now, right? So, and that's not even close to happening. And, Flacco and Dalton and Ryan, all of these guys are maligned next to Brady. And, Aaron Rodgers went out and walked on water again the other night, right?
I mean, Flacco's won a Super Bowl. End the conversation. He threw the ball in Denver. The guy wasn't there. Flacco hit him. Hey, I mean, he made the play. And but I think Flacco's obviously a talent, and I thought he kind of needed the same thing that Andy did. I think he needed and I think they're doing that down there, right? Got a little bit of a different look offensively. I think they gave him some. He wasn't exactly throwing to. He's not exactly throwing to some, in the last couple of years. They've struggled at receiver, trying to find one in the draft and everything, and they went out and got 3 pretty good ones, you know what I mean? John Brown's a hell of a player. John Brown changes the dynamic of Flacco, I'm telling you. Joe can stretch the field, and so can Brown. They're a hell of a tandem.
Well, having a tight end is really important for both of the protection, a tight end, and a running game for Flacco, for anybody. We talk about Brady and these guys. When he gets protected, he's Tom Brady. When he doesn't, he's complaining about getting sacked too hard. Literally, right? Like
Terrell Austin, the Bengals defensive coordinator, Ravens fans know him. He was a secondary coach.
Love Terrell.
When you guys won it all, he's terrific. He's terrific. He was talking, he said, looks like a typical Ravens team, and they'll pound you physically, and they will. They pound you physically with that running game, which I think is the way, which is perfect for Joe, because it sets him up. But, they really haven't, since Ray's been there, they really haven't found the guy and really haven't been comfortable running the ball, and it looks to me like they're getting back to that way a little bit. So,
and you say that, but Joe threw the ball 30 times in the first half Sunday. 30 times. We thought they were going to run the ball too, and that's what they're going to do when they get ahead 40-0. And then they're going to run the ball, right?
But Dalton and Flacco are like most of the guys in this league. They're not. There's Brady and there's Rodgers, okay, and then these other guys need a little bit of help, and they'll win for you,
Hey man, Nick Foles won, right? Nick Foles won a Super Bowl, so that's all that needs to be said. Hey, man, I will see you on Thursday night. I'm coming in. I'm bringing Luke with me for the very first time if we don't get trapped on Thursday during this crazy hurricane. But we're looking forward to this. The battle of the undefeateds here. How about the Browns and the Steelers tying, right? When they finish 9-6-1.
Only in the AFC North.
Hey, man, we'll see you on Thursday night. Always good having you on, bro.
Thanks a lot, Nestor. I look forward to seeing you.
One of my all-time favorites, Geoff Hobson. He is Geoff Hobson Sin. That's not S-I-N, that's C-I-N for Cincinnati. He's been out in Cincinnati for 3 decades covering sports, has been with Bengals.com. One of the originators, not one of, the originator of joining team websites, and always outspoken, as you hear, especially about the Red Sox. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device, by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world you happen to be. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox each and every morning. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Big reminder, the John W. Brick Foundation 5K and weekend with Wim Hof and the Wim Hof Method Experience. All happening for my 50th birthday. I'm going to be in Nashville, but you're going to be out there hopefully supporting our friends in the Brick family as well as Planet Fitness. John W. Brick Foundation. It's JWB. 5K.com to get some more information on that. Also brought to you by our friends at Laurel Racetrack. And, of course, the weather a little funky here this weekend. Hang on. Next weekend, the DeFrancis Dash will be back, and we got the Maryland Million coming up on October the 20th. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard And, of course, Dennis Colazzos will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. We've got a weekend where I could sit and red zone it out. Hopefully the Ravens will be 2-0, but only time will tell on that. And hopefully we all batten down and stay safe during this storm. I am Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.